I paid for the ring, the venue, the dresses, and the caterer. All they brought was judgment and a prenup. The evening light stretched long shadows across the lawn of the Walsh estate, filtering gold through the latticework of the pergola above. I sat beneath it, carefully balancing a flute of champagne and pretending to be as relaxed as the silk dress Lucas had picked out for me suggested. Around me, soft jazz played through hidden speakers, and the family's inner circle floated from canapé tray to canapé tray, talking about legacy trusts and horse auctions. I didn't belong in this picture. I knew it. And judging by the glances I kept catching from Margot, neither did she think I should. It had started months ago, but the very first hairline crack had come the day Margot invited me to lunch at a country club where my name wasn't even on the guest list. She'd barely looked up from her kale salad when she asked me, sweet as poison, "Rachel, do you think your credit score is suitable for a Walsh marriage license?" I laughed at the time, awkward and small. Now I realize that wasn't a joke. It was a test. Tonight was supposed to be celebratory. Lucas had wrapped up final calls with the DJ, and I'd just confirmed the seating chart with the caterer. 78 guests, 4 courses, a $10,000 cake flown in from Boston. All organized, paid, and confirmed by me. Lucas's contribution? He'd chosen the signature cocktail. I spotted him across the lawn, charming as ever in a navy jacket, deep in conversation with his father. Gerald Walsh stood tall, arms crossed, his signature scotch in hand. He listened more than he spoke, and when he did speak, his words felt like instructions, even if they sounded like questions. I knew better than to interrupt, so I waited until Lucas saw me and smiled. It was a soft, familiar smile. The one he gave me in quiet restaurants and sleepy Sunday mornings. He crossed over and kissed my cheek. "You look stunning," he murmured. "Everything's perfect." "It should be," I said lightly. "We're at version 12 of the seating chart." He chuckled and tucked my hair behind my ear, a reflex he knew I used to like. I wanted to lean into that warmth, to believe it. But it was getting harder. A waiter passed with fresh glasses of Prosecco. I declined. Lucas took one, then turned as Margot approached. She was, as always, immaculate. Cream linen slacks, silk blouse, pearls that had likely belonged to someone famous. Her perfume announced her arrival before she even said a word. "Well," she said, eyes traveling down my figure, "you do wear that dress better than I expected." "Thank you," I replied, steady. "It was on sale." Lucas shifted beside me. Margot didn't blink. "Your mother had an eye for bargains too, didn't she?" she continued, tilting her glass. "I remember reading something in the paper once. Or was it the police blotter?" There it was, not even veiled. A hit on my mother, the late Miss Evelyn Carter, who raised me alone, taught me how to read balance sheets before bedtime, and worked 2 jobs so I could study without debt. She passed away 2 years ago from a heart condition that no one in her world had ever cared enough to ask about. Certainly not Margot. I felt my stomach twist, but I smiled. She taught me that value and cost aren't the same thing. A lesson that seems to have skipped a generation. Margot's lips thinned. Lucas cleared his throat. "Mom," he said warningly. "Not now." "Oh, I'm just reminiscing," she said, sipping her drink. "Besides, this is all a formality anyway. Gerald and I wanted to give you something." She handed over a slim folder, cream-colored, monogrammed with gold. I took it without opening it. "What is it?" I asked. Gerald had walked up by then, flanking Margot. "Prenuptial agreement," he said. "Standard for the family, nothing you need to worry about." I opened the folder slowly. 10 pages. Legalese, sharp and cold. Inheritance protection. Waivers. In the event of divorce, 0 claims on Walsh properties or assets. I blinked. "This wasn't mentioned before," I said. "We assumed you'd understand," Gerald replied. "It's tradition." Lucas placed a hand on my back. "It's not personal. It's just how things are done. Don't overthink it, babe." I looked at the signature line. Blank. My name already typed beneath it. I flipped to the last page, removed my phone from my clutch, and snapped a photo of the entire agreement. Margot's eyebrows lifted. For record keeping, I said simply. I borrowed a pen from a nearby server, scrawled my name in cursive, and shut the folder. Then I handed it back to Gerald. My smile was small, composed, but my hand felt like it was gripping ice. Later, in the guest suite I had been given, separate from Lucas's quarters, for appearances, I sat cross-legged on the bed with my laptop on my knees. I opened Gmail, attached the photo. Subject line, just in case. As I closed my laptop, I saw Margot through the French doors. She was laughing. I wasn't sure why, but I would soon. They toasted to legacy, lineage, and bloodlines, then laughed about the woman who raised me. The garden was dressed like a dream that didn't belong to me. Lanterns swayed between the oaks, casting soft shadows over 70 perfectly arranged chairs and white-clothed tables lined with bone china and silver. A quartet played Vivaldi under a clear June sky, and the Walsh name floated through the air like incense. On every menu, every monogrammed napkin, every murmured toast. Not once did I hear mine. I sat to Lucas's left, Andrea at my other side. She leaned in and whispered, "Smile wider. You look like you just got audited." I forced a grin and took a sip of wine I didn't remember ordering. Lucas nudged my knee with his under the table. Comfort or warning, I couldn't tell anymore. Margot stood to speak just before the main course arrived. A crystal bell rang once, and the string musicians paused mid-measure. "My dear friends and family," she began, voice warm, precise, and terrifyingly rehearsed. "Tonight, we honor more than a union. We honor tradition. Our family has always believed in heritage, in building something that lasts, in marrying with care." There were murmurs of approval, some polite nods. She continued, "I remember when Lucas brought someone home the first time, and I thought, now here is a woman who understands what it means to be part of a legacy, someone who knows how to carry a name with pride." I smiled reflexively, until her next sentence gutted me. "Of course, I'm referring to Evelyn." My stomach turned. Across the table, Andrea froze mid-cutting her steak. Lucas dropped his napkin. Margot smiled, innocent as arsenic. "Evelyn Walsh. Well, Evelyn Green then. You all remember her, don't you? So composed, so considerate. Her mother hosted the most exquisite garden teas." There was polite laughter. I looked at Lucas, eyes demanding an explanation. He didn't meet my gaze. Margot waved toward the far end of the table. "She's here tonight, actually." My breath stopped. I turned. There she was, Evelyn. Long red gown. Waves of blonde hair tucked behind one ear. Raising a glass as if this was still her event, as if she was still his. No one had told me she'd be here. No one had warned me that the woman Lucas had once almost married, had cried over for months, was not only invited but seated 4 chairs away. Andrea leaned close. "That's not an accident." I barely heard her over the pounding in my ears. Gerald lifted his glass next. "To love that endures," he said, smiling thinly. "And to family, because at least Evelyn has parents alive to attend weddings." A few people chuckled. The air in my lungs turned to steel. I felt it hit my bloodstream like poison. I didn't look at Lucas, not this time. Instead, I reached for my wine. My hand trembled. Andrea slid hers gently over mine, stilling it. I turned to her. Her jaw was tight. "I recorded that," she murmured. "Don't ask me why. Just instinct." I blinked once, nodded once, then stood. "I need a moment," I said to no one in particular. My chair scraped softly against the flagstone. I walked, heels clicking, past murmurs and linen and laughter that had no place in my throat. Inside, the guest bathroom glowed with dim sconces and a gold-framed mirror. I shut the door and locked it. The silence hit like a blow. I didn't scream. I didn't sob. I just leaned over the sink, breathing hard. My reflection stared back, unreadable. And then the tears came. Slow. Not because I was breaking, but because I was done pretending it didn't hurt. After a few minutes, I turned on the faucet, washed my face, patted it dry with a towel softer than anything from my childhood. I looked back into the mirror. My makeup was gone. My resolve wasn't. "That's it," I whispered. I returned to the garden 30 minutes later. No one noticed. Or maybe they did, and just didn't care. Andrea caught my eye and gave the tiniest nod. Lucas was laughing with Evelyn. I went straight to the guest suite, packed my essentials, left the gown on its hanger, slept in a t-shirt on top of the covers. Dreamless. The next morning, I found a cream envelope on the marble counter. Inside, one sentence in Margot's handwriting. "Wedding's off. Expect a call from our lawyer." They thought I'd scream. I replied with an itemized spreadsheet and a recording instead. I arrived at the Walsh estate at precisely noon, wearing the same ivory dress from the night before. My hair was tied back in a simple knot. No makeup, no pretense. If they expected me to arrive sobbing or furious, they were about to be very disappointed. The housekeeper opened the door without a word. I thanked her quietly, walked across the marble foyer, and followed the muted clinking of flatware toward the dining conservatory. The Walshes never did anything as simple as eat. Even their grief had linens and crystal. The long brunch table was covered in white. French pastries glistened under silver cloches. Lucas sat at the far end, posture too perfect, voice too controlled. Margot and Gerald flanked him like sentinels, sipping from bone china as if nothing had imploded less than 24 hours ago. Margot looked up first. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Well, I wasn't expecting guests." "I was," I said calmly, and placed a navy blue folder on the table in front of her. Lucas stood up halfway. "Rach, I won't take long," I said, eyes never leaving Margot's. "I just came to return what was never yours." Gerald narrowed his gaze. "This isn't the time." I opened the folder. Inside, every receipt, every bank transfer, line by line, floral deposits, catering advances, the dress fitting, the live band, labeled, dated, subtotaled. And then the personal ones. Margot's request for a rush reservation at a venue I never chose. Gerald's emergency consulting fee to an officiant who never officiated. And the retainer I paid for their family accountant who promptly ghosted me once the engagement broke. I flipped the summary page around so it faced them. Total, $68,745.43. I'm not requesting it out of sentiment. This is restitution. Margot scoffed. "Is this how you handle rejection, dear? Invoices?" "No," I replied. "This is how I handle theft." Lucas spoke again, gentler. "Rachel, you know how much pressure they're under. Just let things settle." I ignored him. I took out my phone and tapped the screen. The audio file played clearly through the speaker, sharp and undeniable. Margot's voice. "Once Evelyn's in the dress, Rachel becomes a memory." A silence so dense it felt like velvet. Andrea had sent the file with no caption. I hadn't asked for one. Lucas turned ashen. "What is that?" "Your mother," I said. "A week ago, planning my erasure." Gerald snapped, "Turn it off." "That's illegal." "No," I said coolly. "It's inadmissible without consent in some states. But it's very legal to play here, and it confirms your knowledge, which matters more." I slid another envelope forward. "That's a notice of intent to pursue reimbursement. My attorney already has the originals, but thank you for confirming authenticity." Gerald stood. "You think this intimidates us?" "I think it clarifies things," I said, standing as well. "This isn't personal. This is business. You turned it into that the moment you tried to replace me with a recycled fiancé." Lucas opened his mouth, closed it, then muttered, "Evelyn just came to support the family." I turned to him. And you didn't think that was something your fiancé should know? Before or after your mother humiliated me? He looked away. I leaned forward slightly. I'm not here to beg. I'm here to settle. Then I gathered the folder, slid a second copy from my bag, and dropped it in front of Margot. You keep this one, I said. Might help when your lawyers ask why your foundation received 5 vendor transfers from my account. Margot narrowed her eyes. We'll see what our legal team has to say. I smiled. I hope they bring calculators. You can uninvite a bride, but the bill still comes due. Lena's office didn't believe in distractions. No photos on the wall, no soft rugs underfoot. Just steel-edged shelves, a standing lamp with a single bulb, and a wide glass desk that reflected everything placed on it. That morning, I placed down something that finally felt heavier than heartbreak. The file was blue. Inside, itemized invoices, transfer confirmations, annotated receipts, and a printed transcript of the audio Margot hadn't known was recorded. Lena flipped through page after page, her expression as unreadable as the documents themselves. Her nails tapped once on the edge of a page before she set the whole stack back down. You did your homework? She said. I leaned forward. They think I'm bluffing. They also think lawyers don't have group chats, she said dryly, picking up her phone. 2 of my former classmates now work with the Walsh family's outside counsel. They're scrambling. Good. Lena began assembling the digital package. She worked quickly, precisely, adding item numbers to each charge, inserting timestamps, cross-referencing with the event contract I'd signed. Watching her was like watching a surgeon. They'll try to settle low, she said. Maybe throw you 20 grand to make it disappear. I want acknowledgement, I said. You'll get leverage, she countered, eyes sharp. That's more useful. Do you want them in court? Because if so, I'll go for blood. I considered that. For a long moment, I imagined Margot in a deposition, squirming under questions, forced to explain how my funds found their way into a philanthropic retreat for Evelyn. But then I shook my head. No, I said. I don't need them humiliated. I just want them to stop thinking I'll stay quiet. Lena nodded once. Good boundary. She hit send. To their general counsel, CC'd to Gerald's personal account, and, because I'm petty, to their family's event coordinator. She said with a small grin, let them sweat in sequence. My phone buzzed. Twice. Lucas, I didn't answer. He left a voicemail after the second missed call. Rach, you're better than this. I know this isn't you, just take a breath. Maybe we all said things we didn't mean. I'm sorry, okay? I just don't want it to end like this. I listened without reaction, then archived the message. A moment later, Lena's inbox dinged. She turned her laptop toward me. Gerald Walsh's counsel had responded. A single paragraph. We dispute the client's breakdown of expenditures and find the narrative provided inconsistent with our records. We request a cessation of direct contact and will respond formally within 7 business days. Lena raised an eyebrow. Textbook stall. I reached into my bag, pulled out my phone, and began drafting a reply. I CC'd Lena and their firm's general account. Typed slowly, deliberately. I accept that you dispute the truth. The court will clarify it for you. Lena read over my shoulder. Perfect. We both sat still for a moment. The silence in her office wasn't cold. It was clean. I hadn't felt that in days. My phone buzzed again. Andrea. She'd promised she was done spying, but I knew her too well. I opened the message. It was a photo, snapped through a boutique window. Evelyn holding up a white gown with pearl buttons, the same shop I'd bought my dress from. The caption read, Take 2. They didn't just erase me. They copied me, with cheaper lace. The cafe in Brooklyn smelled like cinnamon and burnt espresso. It was the kind of place where couples in linen clothes lingered over flat whites, where no one looked twice if you sat in silence for an hour. Andrea had picked it, and when I arrived, she was already seated in the back corner, laptop open, sunglasses still on indoors. She slid them off as I approached. "I have something," she said. No hello, no preamble. I sat. The waitress came by and I pointed at Andrea's drink. "I'll have what she's having." Andrea spun her laptop toward me and clicked on an open chat window. "The friend who sent me this wants to stay out of it. But she got this from Evelyn, by accident. Forwarded instead of copied. Dumb move." I read the message. "It's almost done. Margot says I can walk if Rachel walks." I stared at it. "She knew before the dinner," I said quietly. Andrea nodded. "They were grooming her to take your spot. Probably the moment Margot saw the seating chart and decided she wanted to rewrite it." She clicked to the next tab. A screenshot from Instagram. Evelyn, back turned, standing in a bridal fitting room. The wallpaper was unmistakable. Gold filigree on blush pink. I had taken a selfie in front of that same mirror 2 months ago. Same store, same lighting, different dress, cheaper cut. The caption on Evelyn's post was just a single heart emoji, but the tagged location confirmed everything. "She's trying on dresses at my boutique," I said. "Not just that," Andrea replied. "The appointment was 3 days before the rehearsal dinner." My coffee arrived. I didn't touch it. "I thought they just snapped," I murmured. "I thought they hated my family, my job, my silence. But this? They planned it. They built a contingency plan with better cheekbones and inherited dinnerware." Andrea looked at me gently. "She's not better." "I know," I said. "But they think she is. That's enough." My phone buzzed. "Lena, press interest is growing. Some blog got hold of the email you CC'd to counsel. No leaks yet, but it's only a matter of time. Want to get ahead of it?" I didn't answer immediately. I stared out the cafe window at a woman walking her dog, at a man folding a stroller with one hand while balancing an iced tea in the other. Real people. Doing ordinary things. I turned back to Andrea. "Remember that journalist from New York Current you used to intern with?" "Still in touch," she said. I nodded once. "Send her the audio and Evelyn's bridal fitting. Tell her the rest comes later." Andrea closed the laptop slowly. "You sure?" "They wrote a story without me," I said. "I'm just editing it." That night, I couldn't sleep. I wasn't anxious, just awake. A calm alertness like the moment before a curtain rises. I checked my phone before dawn. There it was. The headline. "New York heiress family replaces bride in secret ceremony scandal." Some invoices are paid in dollars, others in distance. The morning light streamed across the hardwood floors of my new apartment in Boston, soft and golden, the kind of light that made everything feel freshly forgiven. I sat on the edge of a half-unpacked box labeled "Kitchen, Sort Later," and sipped lukewarm coffee from a chipped mug I hadn't seen in years. It felt good in my hands. Imperfect, but mine. My phone buzzed on the windowsill. Lena. Her voice was calm as always, but I could hear the satisfaction tucked into the corners of every word. They settled. Full reimbursement. Waiver of liability. No NDA. I exhaled slowly. "No apology?" She laughed. "Please, they'd rather eat their own silverware?" "Of course," I said. "Just checking." We didn't need to say more. She knew what it meant. I hadn't done this for a payout. I had done it to remind them, and maybe myself, that I wasn't someone you could replace like a vendor on a spreadsheet. After we hung up, I pulled the envelope from yesterday's mail pile. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting. Lucas. The note inside was short. Careful cursive, like he thought neatness would make the message land softer. "Rachel. I'm sorry. I didn't know how bad it got. I was trying to keep the peace, not pick a side. I know that sounds weak. Maybe it is. I just never expected it to spiral this way. I miss you. And I hope, someday, you'll believe that I loved you." I folded the letter back into the envelope and set it aside. I didn't tear it. I didn't answer it. I just let it sit. Outside my front door, I heard small footsteps and the rustling of plastic. A knock, then a pause. I opened the door to find Ellie, 6 years old from next door, holding a paper flower taped to a juice box. "Hi," she said, all gap-toothed grin. "Mom says you're new. Are you getting married someday?" I knelt to her height and smiled. "Not this year." She nodded solemnly, handed me the juice box like it was a sacred offering, and ran back down the hall before I could say thank you. Inside, I opened my laptop. My cursor hovered over the contacts tab. I deleted Gerald's number, then Margot's, then Lucas's. In their place, I added Lena, Andrea. I closed the tab. No grand gestures, no closing speeches. Just names shifted like weight off my shoulders. Then another ping. Email this time. Subject: regarding your essay. Rachel, we read your anonymous piece on financial erasure and emotional inheritance. It struck a chord. Have you ever considered turning it into a book? I stared at the screen, and for the first time in months, I smiled. Not out of defense or defiance, but because something inside me had finally gone quiet. Peace didn't come as applause or validation. It came as silence that didn't ache. I didn't respond to the publisher right away. That would have meant admitting I had something to say. Again. And after months of defending, detailing, dissecting every betrayal, I wasn't sure I wanted to relive it all with footnotes. The next morning, I opened the box I had labeled in black marker. Stuff I couldn't throw away yet. It contained very little. A folded invitation to the rehearsal dinner. A photo of my mother in her nursing scrubs, tucked inside the front page of a printed wedding program. The pearl hairpin I had planned to wear. A hotel receipt from the night I left the Walsh estate. A printed copy of the prenup with my own signature staring back at me. I set them on the floor around me like clues in a mystery I'd already solved. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I opened my old journal. On the first blank page, I wrote, "They almost taught me to apologize for surviving them." That was how it had felt, wasn't it? Every time I tried to stand still in their presence, I was expected to shrink a little, bend a little, smile through it. Not just at the Walshes, not just at Margot and Gerald, but Lucas too. A man who didn't strike the match but handed them the lighter. The next day, I drafted a reply to the publisher. Just a few lines. "I'm not sure I want to write a book, but I know which part of the story I would begin with. If that still interests you, let's talk." I hit send and shut the laptop. 2 hours later, my building's buzzer rang. Unexpected. I rarely had visitors, and even fewer who didn't text first. When I opened the door, he stood there, just a little smaller than I remembered. Lucas. He didn't speak right away, just offered a weak smile that died at the corners. I stepped aside wordlessly. He entered as if walking through a museum. Not touching anything. Observing. Guilty. "You moved fast," he said, glancing at the stacked books and the still-taped windowsill planter. "You stayed still?" I replied. He didn't argue. "I didn't come to beg," he said. "Good. But I wanted to explain something I never did properly." I crossed my arms. "I think I always believed someone like you would stay," he said. "That no matter how my family treated you, you'd be the one who didn't make a scene. I thought that meant strength. I didn't realize it was restraint or exhaustion." I stayed quiet. He looked around again. They're all pretending it never happened now. Evelyn's back in their favor. Margot hosts luncheons again. Gerald donates to a hospital wing named after himself. They move fast, too, but not forward. "What about you?" I asked. "Do you still move in their direction?" He hesitated. "I'm trying not to." I wanted to believe that mattered, but belief wasn't cheap anymore. "You were the only one who could have stopped it," I said, "and instead you handed me a napkin when your mother made fun of mine." He nodded slowly. "I know." "Then say it." "I'm sorry." There was no audience to hear it, no notary to record it, just me. And still it felt Better than silence. You were right, he added. I didn't deserve the things you gave. Not the money, not the loyalty, not the trust. You didn't, I said, but I gave them anyway. That part's on me. He looked at me like he wanted to say something more, then thought better of it. Instead, he reached into his jacket and held out a small envelope. What is it? I asked, not touching it. My share, he said. Of the total you sent. I know it doesn't fix anything. No, I agreed, but it's a start. I took the envelope, didn't open it. He walked toward the door, hand on the knob, then paused. If you ever write it all down, he said softly, leave out the part where I loved you like I had time. I didn't answer, because that line would be the title. That evening, I walked down the waterfront path near the Charles River, coat collar pulled high against the breeze. A new cafe had opened near the park, and the windows glowed soft orange. I ordered tea and sat by the window, journal open again. I started to write. Not the whole story, but the questions I had never voiced aloud. Why does silence feel safer than honesty, when you're the only one bleeding from both? Why did it take losing a wedding to finally recognize I'd been mourning myself for years? Why do people only count love when it comes with a ring, a name, a seat at someone else's table? A woman at the next table caught my eye. She looked maybe 50, wore a green scarf with coffee stains, her laptop open to a half-written paragraph. She smiled. I smiled back. And I realized I was no longer afraid of being seen, or worse, misunderstood. I wasn't writing to explain anymore. I was writing to remember, to reframe, and finally, to release. Because some stories aren't revenge, they're receipts, and this one I would keep. Not to prove anything, but to make sure I never paid the same price twice. When the Walsh family tried to erase Rachel, they didn't expect her to respond with silence sharpened into strategy. Her receipts, her calm precision, and her refusal to beg became the scalpel that severed every tie they once used to bind her. Justice didn't knock loudly. It arrived dressed in spreadsheets and subpoenas. Like the final chord of a long-forgotten melody, justice may arrive late, but it resonates powerfully once it's heard. If this story struck a chord, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment below. Let me know how Rachel's journey made you feel.